Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Premier Investments in Wealth Management Financial Program. My name is Doug Wagner, and before I introduce the gentleman sitting at the table with me today, I want to ask you if you are ready for retirement. If you're like most people, you probably don't even know. I'd say many of you aren't. How many of you even have what's called an emergency fund? More about that from Jonas Everett coming up. He likes emergency funds, and he wants you to have one. It's all part of having a financial plan. And all you have to do to get your financial plan is go to premieriwm.com, click Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide for you a one-page Premier Vision document, and it has all the information that you need. It's one page. You can expand it into many more pages, but they'll give you a free, no obligation, sit-down appointment with them in person. You can do it over Zoom or however you want to do it. Come into here, they'll go to you, wherever it is. But they'll sit down with you and explain what it's going to take for you to get to your dream retirement. Do you want your kids to go to school and not have to pay as much as they would have to if you didn't invest for that for the future? Or maybe you want dream home on a lake, or maybe you've got a hunting lodge that you're looking at. premieriwm.com. It all starts there. Click Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide that Premier Vision document. Again, premieriwm.com. It's free. You can take it with you. They'll even explain how to set up an emergency fund. Now, directly to my right, he's a wealth advisor, accredited investment fiduciary, certified financial planner, CFP professional, over 11 years of experience in the investment industry. He's my neighbor. He is Dr. Casey Mushrush.
Not that kind of doctor, Doug.
Not like Dr. Pepper. Dr. Casey Mushrush. It's a JD. So there you go. How you doing?
Doing good.
Awesome.
Doing good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We've got on the other end of the table, he's the vice president and wealth advisor. He is the new sheriff in town. Well, it's been a while, so maybe just the sheriff in town?
Yep.
Okay.
Sheriff in town. Not a doctor, but a sheriff.
It's a sheriff, and not new because, it's the blooms off the rose there. He's a certified exit planning advisor. This is the second SEPA in the office. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Elias Randel, it's good to see you.
You too, Doug. Happy to be here.
It's awesome. I like this. Everybody's got.
I was going to ask about that because I think that this is the announcement where I have found out that you got the SEPA. So you waited until the radio show, right? So I would find that out, right?
Yes.
Well, he had this big celebration planned for you, and he wanted to keep it
derailed
down
it
for you. So it's like that's exactly what it was.
Got my test results the other day. So
did I.
I'm certified now.
Wow,
Congratulations.
Certified
Exit planning advisor.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Joining us, the fourth man in gray. He has been doing this for over 30 years of experience in the investment industry. He's a wealth advisor. Jonas Everett, how are you?
I'm doing good, Doug. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I am just excited about this one. I cannot wait to get into these Q's and A's because we've got so many of them that we're going to do, and we've got plenty of time to do them. You'll get your opportunity to talk about emergency fund.
I can't wait. And really, thank you for all the listeners sending these listener questions. And I think if I could speak for the gang here, that it's a lot easier asking and just receiving these listener questions than it is going into like the Secure Act 2.0 and things of that nature. I love these listener questions. Keep them coming.
Yeah. No Secure Act 2.0, though. I mean, if you have one, we'll cover it. But
I don't know. Sometimes there's a question that we do have to talk about Secure Act 2.0.
But these are more exciting. These are real-time listener questions.
Jonas.
Yeah,
Best
that's right.
worlds.
That's right.
let's get to Diane's question. She says, I'm in my mid-70s. I have too much money in CDs with the way the economy and markets are today. What are your thoughts on CDs and how much of my money should be allocated there? Elias, what are you thinking when you first hear that question?
Very timely question. So here's what we know about CD rates. They have come down. So here's what I noticed. When CD rates are over 5, people wanted CDs.
Yeah.
People really, and for whatever reason, once that 5 shows up, I think people psychologically think, what a pretty risk-free rate of return. The 5 just looks nice. Mm-hmm. Well, now a lot of CDs start with a 3. If you're lucky, you might be able to find one paying 4 or a little bit more. So I have 5 things to think about. And it's the first thing, start with your goal. So what does this money need to do for you?
Okay.
CDs tend to fit into someone's liquid bucket, as we would refer to it. This is money you're going to spend in the next 12 to 36 months.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I would start to think about is what are the trade-offs of CDs? So CDs are not a growth vehicle. They're designed really to keep up with inflation for the most part in a relative sense, which is another reason why we view it as a short-term investment product in someone's liquid strategy.
And somebody who's in their mid-70s, this may actually match what you're talking about at that point.
Correct.
Mhm.
I would consider, the third thing I would consider is opportunity cost and diversification. So I'm assuming that Diane might have, this is her words, too much money in CDs. So maybe she's thinking about diversification and adding some money either to her income bucket or her growth bucket, which psychologically, if she feels like she has too much, it's probably going to be hard to convince her otherwise. So
Right.
she's probably looking for other opportunities for the money. And I wouldn't say the easy answer is more risk. I think every investor has the right type of risk that they like to take for the timeline they're considering on the money. The fourth thing would be comfort and behavior that I would think about. Someone in their mid-70s with a lot of money in CDs, that's a pretty good signal that they're a more conservative investor.
Right.
Fluctuations probably bother them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where if you're going to be a growth investor, you have to go into it knowing that you're going to have to live with some fluctuation on that money. And the fifth thing is tailor everything to your individual strategies. So for Diane, what has to happen with this money for you to be happy? What are your goals for this money? What is your time horizon?
Okay.
And then if you can answer those questions, I think you'll be able to find a place for this money that fits those things and will set you up for a successful outcome.
Jonas, it's interesting because the concept of talking about the key isn't more risk or less risk. It's the right kind of risk for the timeline that you're looking for. And you've had a situation where that happened.
Yeah, we talk about the bucket strategy all the time, and potentially this person may have never invested before, and that's where maybe downloading the bucket strategy guide would come in. I had a situation where I was able to put a CD investor over into a portfolio because we determined that she still had some money that she never wanted to use before, and she was in her 70s, but she wanted some growth for her beneficiaries, actually.
Right.
So we used a bucket strategy, and we determined that she, even in her 70s, had some bucket number 4, had some growth money because she didn't want her beneficiaries to have a reduced CD rate. She wanted some growth for her beneficiaries. And she's in her 70s, and she has great life expectancy in her family, too. So she was very, very comfortable with taking some of that CD money and putting it in a growth portfolio.
Casey, is this something where in the mid-70s I guess, put the question, are you ever too old to say, I need to take a look at a financial plan?
No, absolutely not. You know, I think really when we take a look at what financial planning does, and actually the development of the financial plan, it's simply giving your money purpose. So I don't care if you're 18 years old or you're 35 years old or you're 85 years old. Money having a purpose is the entire intent of the financial plan, and that's really what the ultimate goal is. One thing I do think is kind of interesting on this, though, Elias, you mentioned something in terms of opportunity cost, and that might be something that is extremely difficult for people simply because it is difficult to quantify. The opportunity cost as an expense, there's not a nice, neat little way to have a number that's associated with it. Now, obviously, there's some tools that we can use, but how you measure something that does not exist can sometimes be a little bit problematic.
It can. I mean, opportunity cost is really a concept, and it also comes down to whether people care or not, which comes back to comfort and behavior. People's behavior most of the time will dictate their success as an investor, which I'm not saying if you're a CD investor, I'm not saying you won't be successful on your goals. You may be successful. There is a large opportunity cost between how a CD is going to perform over 20 years and how stock market will perform over 20 years. But it's possible you may be very comfortable with that. And it's also, if you've been a certain investor for a long period of time, here's what you could do. If you're in your mid 70s, you could say, well, what would this have been had I done something different? And what are you going to do with that information? It's all in the past at this point. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think the key is there's not a one size fits all approach to investing. If everything's aligned, you can view your money that, as Casey mentioned, has purpose, is working for you as well. And the more your money can work for you, I think the better off you'll be over time.
Yeah. It's the one-page Premier Vision document that's like one of the final documents you get when you put together your financial plan with my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. And it's like anything else. When you talk about fingerprints, when you talk about DNA, it is specific to your needs because they've got your vision in mind, not just anybody's vision. It's your vision, and that's what they're working with at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Go to premieriwm.com. You can make an appointment online right now by going to that website. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams. Call to make your appointment today at 800-383-6590. Let's go to Laura's question. My mom's in her late 80s and still handles most of her own bills and banking, but I'm starting to worry about phone and email scams targeting seniors. How can I help protect my mom's finances without making her feel like I'm taking over or treating her like a child? This is really interesting, Jonas, because there's a lot of people. I've lost both my parents, but I remember back in the day when that was becoming much more prevalent. And it is a tough tightrope to walk.
It really is. Laura, you're a great person looking out for your mom like this. And this is very popular. This is something that's coming up with households all across the country. Three things to consider helping out your mom without taking away her independence or treating her like a child, so to speak. Three things: audit, educate, and delegate. We really have a three-step framework that we like to use to walk people through. Before I forget, visit premieriwm.com because we do have a guide on how to talk to family members about their financial situation. So number one, audit. You need to start reviewing her bank accounts on a regular basis. Credit cards, look for unusual transactions. Go to the bank, set up some alerts, and create some visibility and accountability with your auditing. The second thing is just educate your mom on how these scams work. I mean, there's so many scams. You could talk to your mom about the weather, or you could just have a conversation about how a new scam came out. Hey, I'm at the airport with your grandson, and he doesn't have his passport or his ID. We need $5,000.
Oh, and I recognize that voice. I recognize that.
That's right. That's right. Talk to mom about these different scams that are out there, and you can also look at having a stronger sense of security with your online presence. So you look at unique passwords, two-factor authentication, and whatever you do at the end of the day, don't click any links that look suspicious. This is going to happen. This happened to a customer of mine. She was very upset about it. She clicked on a link that was right in line, Doug, with what she was working on before. So
right.
In other words, she had a credit card in the past that she forgot about that was hacked, and she was notified, and this was completely legit by the bank that her credit card was hacked. In the meantime, she was contacted by a scammer, and she clicked the link, and she was scammed out of some money. And it was just an unfortunate series of events for my customer, but what I told her was this: everybody in their financial lifetime is going to get scammed. I honestly believe that one way or another with AI. So Laura, great job. Just stay on top of it. The second thing is you have to develop really good relationships with your mom's professionals. If she has a bank that has actually live people working in them,
Yeah.
still, that would be a great place to start. The financial professionals, the insurance agents, the CPAs, and the attorneys, have these people all work together for your mom. But number one thing, Laura, just try to stay on top of it.
So it is interesting. You talk about the access with the attorneys and with the financial professionals. One of the things that we do have is information disclosure forms that we can put on file. It does not allow changes, but it does allow contact and does allow information for us to be able to talk to people. So either a trusted contact form or like some sort of an information disclosure is things that we can put on accounts.
So if there's a concern that you have maybe with some activity that you see or you hear, because I mean, I know that, for example, somebody who's senior but incredibly intelligent person, she took out, $3,000 and she put it between book pages.
Mm-hmm.
And they was told to mail that to somewhere. And she did that. And I don't know what sort of magic voodoo the shipping company had, but they stopped this thing. And they said, something's wrong here, and they brought it back. And that's where everything sort of went sideways at that point. And having these conversations, it can be important, Elias. The other thing, too, is making sure that if you do recognize that there is something happened with maybe dementia or some sort of deficiency at some point, that you can have the conversation with proper people like maybe the attorneys or the accountants and things like that, that the senior in your life has got surrounding them.
The more proactive your family is, the better those folks will be protected as they age. And we have tools, as Casey mentioned. There's trusted contact rules. There's, personally identifiable information rules.
Mm-hmm.
We can assign trading authority on accounts. I mean, this isn't something that we can just do. We do need the authorization of the family. Seniors do need some level of protection. Most of the scams target seniors for, you just mentioned one reason, dementia, memory issues, things of that nature. So the more proactive you can be, the more trust there is, and getting to know the people in their lives. Who are they getting professional advice from?
Yeah.
Developing a relationship with them are all great strategies to try to eliminate this risk from their picture.
And again, I think if the senior is open to it, if it reaches that point where the senior wants you to take you can do joint ownership, Doug, and obviously the power of attorney, you can contact Casey Mushrush and get a power of attorney.
Speaking,
but that would be the last resort.
It is kind of interesting on this note that you have on the educate piece on there. I've taught the scams and financial fraud module for a nonprofit here locally for a number of years. And one of the things I've always talked about in those presentations is the identification of the scams. And it seems to me that they really come down to two different moving elements. There's either preying on greed or there's the fear element. But trying to move somebody into an emotional state, a heightened emotional state that disconnects that lizard brain away from the higher functioning thought facilities really is where a lot of these things start. And whether it's, as you mentioned, hey, I've got your grandkid and you need to send X number of dollars over to here, or they're going to jail, or hey, you need to send us money because the IRS is on their way to your house right now to come and get you. Go get an Apple gift card. IRS does not take payment in Apple gift cards.
I was involved with one that had an eBay gift card, and it was because of one of the satellite companies, and they were trying to renegotiate. It's like, oh, yeah, we're doing a special promotion. And then so I got sent to, and then come back and say, hey, those ones didn't work. They need another set of ones. And I was on the way back. I was like, hold on. Wait a tick. There's something wrong here.
So what do we tell mom or dad or grandma or grandpa before you make any financial moves? Call your executor?
Mm-hmm.
Would that be the simplest way to do it? Before you
Your
call
wealth
this
manager,
I think
800
it's-
number,
I think it's
call your
taking-
executor.
taking a breath and ensuring that it's legitimate. I really think that's what it is, and making sure that if you are told that don't share these details with anybody else, there's a very high likelihood that that's probably not a illicit transaction. So we want to be very cautious with things on that side.
Yeah.
Anytime that somebody's trying to pressure you in order to do something extremely fast, I think that's always a red flag on there as well. That's not to say there aren't legitimate things that are out there. However, when we start to see a lot of these things pile onto one another, that's where we start to have problems.
Going to reiterate for my friend Jonas something he said earlier. Go to premieriwm.com to download the guide on how to talk to your family members about money, financial scams, and maybe even schedule a quick conversation about your family's plan. Again, that's premieriwm.com, or for more information, call 800-383-6590. Casey, we're going to stick with you for this next question. Ellen loved her show. She asked, we've got statements and accounts everywhere, old IRAs, CDs, a 401k from a job 15 years ago. It feels like it's a mess. What's the best way to simplify everything without losing track of what's invested where?
Yeah, the simple answer to this is create and maintain a financial plan. And really, building out that single step is what can turn all these accounts that are all over the place and maybe a little bit disjointed, turning it into one organized picture where you understand where every dollar is, and more importantly, how that dollar is working within your financial life in order to move you closer toward your financial goals. This is really something we run across not infrequently. And what we try to do is we try to utilize that financial plan really to act as that command center. So where everything is at, how it fits together, how these different accounts are interacting. You can even take it over to a greater degree. Where do you want that account to go to if something were to happen to you? Who's going to be in charge of it? And really that financial plan can open up these various different avenues in terms of understanding your money in the best way that you possibly can. There are other digital tools that are out there, or working with an advisor. I know of several that we have that are aggregation tools. Now, I will say in the world of multi-factor authentication, some of those break, not infrequently. But there are some digital tools that can kind of pair everything together to allow a single dashboard view, depending on the financial institutions that are out there. So really, this entire step of creating that financial plan is just reducing all the different noise. Doing that consolidation step as well, if it is appropriate to do so, can also eliminate a lot of that noise that is created by extra statements. Not having to maintain accounts in 15 different places can certainly make things a little bit easier as well.
Right.
And one thing that we always suggest as well, whether you're working with Premier Investment and Wealth Management, which we would love to have you do, or with some other inferior firm, having a single financial advisor that is really working on your behalf as much as possible. And we always think about, you wouldn't have two different accountants, you wouldn't have two different attorneys. Really having that trusted contact, as we were talking about in the most recent question as well.
Right.
But having that centralized trusted contact in order to make sure that you have somebody who can assist you in all these different avenues and really keeping track of where everything is at.
How long do you keep documents?
Depends on the document. So tax returns, I would say keep those at least 7 years, but that's more of an audit item than it is anything else. Statements, keep the year-end one. Most statements have a year-end recap of what happened over the course of the year. You probably don't need to know what happened in April 2023. If you have maybe the December version of that, it should encapsulate the activity that happened in there as well. So it really depends on the type of statement and what it is that you're trying to record.
Premier Investments in Wealth Management at premieriwm.com, here with Dr. Casey Mushrush.
Just to you, Doug.
Elias Randel and Jonas Everett. We're taking listener questions here. They're always willing to take your questions at premieriwm.com. You can also go there, click Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide for you free of charge a Premier Vision document. It's one page, and they'll sit down and go over it with you in a free, no obligation meeting. They'll do it in person where you are. You can come here. They'll do it over Zoom or Teams or whatever your preferred platform is. But the whole point of it is that They want to introduce you into what it's going to take for you to get to the retirement you would like to have. It's probably going to be easier than you think it is. So don't feel trepidation when you're thinking about getting ready for retirement. Let my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management work with you in order to help you ease into where you need to be. PremierIWM.com is the website, or you can call for your appointment 800-383-6590. Premier Investments and Wealth Management named a 2025 Forbes Best in State Wealth Management Team. Marianne asks, most of our income comes from my husband's IRAs and Social Security. As we get older, I'm starting to worry about what happens if he passes away first. Should we be keeping a larger cash reserve so I can cover expenses without having to sell investments right away? When you talk with people and you put together a financial plan, Elias, you talk to them, if they're married, you talk to them as a couple, not just as two individuals.
That is correct. So the basic real answer here, this retirement strategy shouldn't change all that much due to one spouse passing away. There are a couple considerations to think about. And so if you haven't worked these details out, it would be a good time to revisit that conversation and get that worked out. The first thing that comes to mind is I hope Marianne is the primary beneficiary of her husband's IRA, which means when you're a spouse and you inherit an IRA, you are essentially taking ownership of the account. Now, Social Security, there will be a change with your Social Security because when at the time a spouse passes, you're going to lose the smaller check that's coming into the family, which in this example, she says a large portion of our retirement income comes from my husband's IRA and his Social Security. In this situation, she's going to keep that larger check, lose the smaller one. And so a solid retirement income strategy like Premier Bucket strategy that we use should be designed to cover your family for both spouses' lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to have income for both of you. We should already have a cash reserve in there to cover your immediate expenses. And we should understand how will these accounts transfer. So IRA, as I mentioned earlier, when a spouse inherits, they get to keep it. They're going to lose a Social Security check. Over time, you should be working through these details, and I will let the listeners know that it's most likely a product of how long our company has been in business, but I think we have a death claim going on at all times here.
Yeah.
I don't know that we ever have a day in the office where there's not an open death claim, which we've been around since 1989. Help a lot of retired people. So that's kind of comes with the business, right? And death claims are a very sad and emotional time. Just like everything else in our business, the more proactive the plans are of what's going to happen at this time, the easier it will be on the family. So at minimum, spouses need to know my spouse will inherit my stuff. We're going to lose a Social Security check, but we could replace it with this income source. So I think this is a very common question. I totally understand where Marianne's coming from. If you haven't worked out these details and you lack confidence in what will happen, a great website to visit would be PremierIWM.com and have a talk with us about how we could help you with that.
What stands out, I think, to me is exactly what you said, Elias. There's no game plan here. There's no strategy. It's just kind of, Marianne's is kind of like setting her sails with the wind up and down, no written strategy. One of the things that I would ask Marianne is, how much money are you spending right now in retirement?
Yeah.
What's your retirement lifestyle now? Let's see if the math pencils out for your different sources of income. And once that is on one piece of paper, the Premier Vision document, go have fun. Don't worry about this stuff. Usually, if people have never been asked what their retirement lifestyle is, and the most successful retired, financially successful people I have that on a piece of paper. They've got the trips down, they've got the visits to the grandkids down, and they have an approximate number, $20,000, $25,000 a year that they're going to spend. and then the rest of it, they have all their bills, and then they're out having fun at that point.
You know, I do think it's interesting on this, and you both mentioned this, but what the financial plan does in a situation like this is bring clarity to the situation, where we just remove all that ambiguous, well, should I do this or should I do that? What does the financial plan say? Because whether there's one of you or two of you, if we're doing a household plan, there is going to be a change. We know that, but we can get through the emotional piece without having to worry about the financial. The financial piece at that point will take care of itself, and then we can do the real hard work when somebody passes away, which is that emotional heavy lifting that you were talking about, Elias, because that is the most difficult part, generally speaking, is working through the emotions, understanding what that new reality is when you lose a spouse.
It's possible in this situation, there is a plan and strategy in place. You know, some families have one spouse that's more engaged in the investment strategies and what's going to happen. There could also be a simple solution of ask your spouse. If you're not every family tends to have a financial driver and then one who is trusting and going along for the ride. Ask what's going to happen when one of us passes away. It's possible Mary Ann's husband already knows the answer to that, and maybe they've talked about it. Maybe she forgot, or maybe he needs to do a better job of talking her through what will happen at that time.
You know, what's really interesting on this, and I think this probably shows the value that we can sometimes bring into a situation. I talked to somebody, not a client, but I talked to somebody about 2 weeks ago. And he said, well, I have this and this and this and this. And honestly, I really don't need you. Okay, well, why did you call me? I'm worried about my wife. I handle all the finances. I handle all the money. What I'm looking for is I want to develop a relationship so that if I were to walk out of life before my wife does, she can go talk to somebody and I don't have to worry about her at that point. And so situations like that, they exist and they are out there, and it can actually show where we can provide some, not necessarily value immediately to him, because he might not necessarily need us, but maybe the spouse does, maybe the survivor does.
You provide peace of mind for him or her, whoever's in that position. And that was the question I was getting at, is like, I know you do this. What does your first year of retirement look like? But also and more difficult questions like, what does it look like after your spouse passes? Let's role play or let's game plan through that so that we can put together something for the future. Again, Elias said it, premieriwm.com. Go over there, check out what they have. You can even click on the little About Us tab up there, and you can take a look at the guys. You can specifically ask for one person if you want to, or you can just hit contact us up there, and they will get you a meeting with somebody from Premier Investments and Wealth Management. 800-383-6590. Jonas.
You know, if they do that, we are at a distinct disadvantage because they know what we look
like.
And
exactly.
We don't know what they look like.
Let's see which one I'm going to pick today. Jonas, I'm going to go for Janet's questions with you. Our mortgage will be paid off in 5 years. Should we redirect those payments toward extra retirement savings or keep more cash on hand for flexibility?
It's an astounding yes for me, Janet. Yes. I love this question. Congratulations, 5 years. That's why they call this personal finances. That mortgage number has been ingrained in your head as long as you've had it. So once that mortgage is paid off, and I love this statement, that payment already feels like spent money to you. Please redirect that right away to savings or investments. Probably a combination of both. Just to keep it simple, if you don't have a plan in place, you have your mortgage paid off, you have, let's say, a $1,500 or $1,000 mortgage payment, just split it up equally, Doug. $500 to savings, $500 to investments, and then seek out a financial advisor at that point. But I love this. There's a lot of psychology involved. People will forget if you don't do it. The big mistake, a common misconception, I've seen people, they've paid their mortgage off and they have that mortgage payment. They don't have a direction for that to go, and that creeps into their lifestyle spending at that point. And that's tough to come back 4 or 5 years later, or even 4 or 5 months later, and redirect that $1,500 a month. So it's an astounding yes for me, Janet, and that's a great question, and I hope you do that 5 years from now when the mortgage is paid off.
I have a question for you, Jonas. So if you just think about our clients as a firm, is a paid off mortgage something that our most successful investors have in common?
I think it is, actually. I think that is a financially successful strategy that if you look at one of the parts of a financial plan, you don't usually see financially successful people having a huge mortgage in retirement. And it's almost like it's a track record of financial success when somebody does have a mortgage that's paid off. And one of the things that the Everett family did, we kind of got in a hurry. We listened to radio shows. We got in a hurry and we paid our mortgage off. And we redirected that mortgage payment. And I was kind of thinking to myself, well, geez, kind of like you said earlier, Elias, if I shoulda, woulda, coulda, if I would have invested that in the S&P 500, I would have had a better return. But then I thought, Doug, I am the financial driver. If I do pass out of life or get hit by that 380 bus or whatever when I'm jaywalking across the interstate, then Jody is not going to have to worry about a mortgage payment.
I do think it is interesting when we take a look at these mortgages. There's kind of two answers. There's the math answer, right? Which, sometimes I would say the math tells you to pay it off. Sometimes the math tells you to keep it. That's the mathematical part. But what I think that a lot of people that simply analyze it solely based only off of interest rates versus rates of return, which I'll freely admit I've been guilty of before in the past, it's forgetting what that is, what that debt is. Number one, it is debt, and it does represent risk. And so in a situation like this, especially with Janet, by reducing down that mortgage, by getting rid of that monthly payment, by eliminating that debt out of her life, she's de-risking their financial situation. If something catastrophic happens to her and her husband, I'm assuming because she's saying if something catastrophic happens to them, the amount of money that they need on a monthly basis in order to maintain their same lifestyle has significantly dropped because that mortgage payment is no longer in the picture anymore. So that de-risking is a factor that I think, again, kind of something we talked about with that opportunity cost a little bit earlier tonight, Elias. It's not something that's necessarily always factored over into those decision-making processes.
Jonas, was your house more comfortable after you had it paid off?
It was more. There was less of a burden.
And it's something that if you don't have that feeling of financial rest, you can get it. You just need a plan in order to get there. If you go to Premier Investments and Wealth Management website at premieriwm.com, click Get Started, just answer a few questions. They'll provide that plan for you. The first thing is a one-page Premier Vision document. They'll sit down free of charge and explain it to you. They'll even give you that little goal-setting sheet to go home. And not only is goal setting, but also it has short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals for you to process as well. It works a lot better when you have somebody on your side, when you have a professional there to assist you, because if you're sort of wandering the woods and there's no Boy Scouts with compasses around and your GPS doesn't work, you need somebody to help you. That's what they serve as, maybe a financial GPS. Let's put it that way. Premier Investments in Wealth Management at premieriwm.com, named Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams. Call 800-383-6590. Here along with Jonas Everett, Elias Randel, and Dr. Casey Mushrush.
Just you, Doug.
It's questions for you right here. Ben says, I want to retire. My wife wants to retire at 58. I plan on keep working until I'm 63. So how do we coordinate our finances and benefits so one of us can retire early without throwing it off when it comes to our overall plan?
So really, this goes back over to, again, the financial plan. I'm sure I sound like a broken record at this point, but understanding how each spouse's income and their retirement benefits and their goals are going to contribute to the household plan, make sure that everything works together and not as opposing factors. So this is something that we run across not infrequently. Oftentimes we might have a spouse, maybe one who's a little bit older, maybe one who's a little bit younger. Even sometimes we have spouses that are the same age, but one just absolutely despises their job with every fiber of their being, and the other one is, I can continue to stick this out for a little bit longer. Yeah. But we always look at this as a household balance sheet rather than as separated assets. We're not doing two different retirements. We're planning for a joint retirement or a retirement together. Now, understanding how these benefits are going to be changing during this 5-year period where one spouse is still working and the other one isn't. How is health insurance going to be paid for? Well, is she the one who has health insurance? Are we now moving over to his health insurance? Does he have health insurance? Are we now looking at maybe an ACA plan or an Obamacare plan? Understanding how those health insurance coverage and premiums are going to get paid for. How does that impact Social Security and pension? You know, if she was the high income earner, maybe her Social Security was a little bit higher. If she was a little bit younger, maybe she can't claim quite as easily or quite as soon as what he can. So understanding how those pensions and Social Security might factor into this, and then the investment withdrawals and the tax implications from the various different investment accounts and how those are set up. So take, for example, over through here, she's already 58. If she has a workplace retirement plan, she can take advantage of Rule of 55 if she is retiring from that workplace plan. But maybe they don't need that money, so they're looking at moving that to a traditional IRA or to a Roth IRA where they can then access those funds without penalty beginning at age 59 and a half. So there are some implications on that side when it comes over to taxes and when it comes over to penalties that we need to make sure that we're thinking about as well. Now, the other working spouse, maybe their income is a bridge. Maybe that allows one spouse to maybe step back a little bit. It allows them to redirect their efforts into maybe it's charitable efforts rather than maybe something that is generating income. But that working spouse's income can act as a bridge in order to either supplement or cover the vast majority of the need. And then the other part of it is really just taking a look at understanding what happens if the spouse who was planning on working for a longer period of time decides they suddenly do not want to work anymore. So I know, Ben, that you mentioned that your wife wants to retire at 58. You plan to work to age 63. How do you feel if you are still going to the office every morning or going to the workplace and your wife is not? She's hanging out at home. There are some emotional decisions on this that we need to make sure that we do fully understand what the financial ramifications are. And so kind of on that note, I had a client that they did something very similar to this, actually, even with these numbers. That is what their overall intention was. The wife was going to stop working at age 58. The husband was going to work. In his particular instance, he said, I'll hang on until age 66. That lasted 2 years. When he turned age 60, he said, you know, my wife is doing a lot of charitable things. So she was serving on a couple of different boards, and then she was going and volunteering some time down over on there. But what they were missing is they were missing that time together where they could go and do some of the retirement things that they were already planning. And so we ended up actually reworking the financial plan so that rather than having him retire at age 66, as was his intention, he ended up actually able to retire at age 60. Now, there were some trade-offs. We had a different Social Security claiming strategy that we were implementing. There was different cash flow that we were expecting from that Social Security claiming strategy. We pulled the income from various different sources at different orders. It wasn't that they couldn't do it, but it did have for them a little bit of a trade-off where it was more important for them to be fully retired, and they spent a little bit less on a per annual basis, but they gained back that freedom of time. And so they were able to dedicate their time to do the things that they wanted to do rather than simply continuing to build up and continuing to go into work in order to spend a little bit more later on.
And that could be huge. But the most important thing that you're hearing out of this is that it helps to have a professional on your side to help you work through this, because it's not something that maybe a slide rule or an Excel spreadsheet. If you wanted to, you could. But do you have the time? Do you have the ability? Do you have the desire to do that? At Premier Investments and Wealth Management, they have all three of them. If you have one or none of them, they can help you. PremierIWM.com or call 383-6590. While you're on the website at premieriwm.com, you do want to download the 10 critical steps to take before retirement. It's a fabulous guide that you can utilize. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 55, 60. Download the guide. It's called 10 Critical Steps to Take Before Retirement at premieriwm.com. Premier Investments in Wealth Management named to Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Team. Elias, heading over to you for Barb's question. We're trying to figure out when to start Social Security so it fits with our withdrawal plan. How do we know if waiting a few years really pays off? And I'm going to interrupt this with the question. If you decide you're going to take a Social Security pay structure, it's one and done. You can't undo that once it's done. Is that correct?
Practically, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
What you can within the first 12 months.
Okay.
And I believe there's some sort of repayment. I think you got to pay it all back.
Okay.
So is it possible to undo it within the first 12 months? Yes. Is
Okay.
it practical? No.
Okay. Thank you.
So-
10-4.
Answer to the sidebar question. So I have 4 factors to consider. 1, health and longevity.
Mm-hmm.
So perfect way to do this is go to the pawn shop and buy a crystal ball.
He's got a magic 8 ball in his trunk.
That's right.
Okay, borrow
Charge back
Jonas's
later.
magic 8 ball. So health and longevity, you can make some sort of educated guess around this based on family health history.
Mm-hmm.
Cash flow needs. Can your portfolio or other income sources cover your expenses? So where is this Social Security income fit in your cash flow needs? The psychology of claiming Social Security and taking it, regardless of maximizing the income strategy, some people just flat out prefer to turn their Social Security on and start spending that money, regardless of what's the optimal way to do it from how am I going to get the most?
Right.
They like having that guaranteed check coming in. And the last reason, which ties in with the psychology, is the solvency concerns with Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think in our firm, at Premier Investments, our broad belief is that there won't be changes for current retirees. I think we would all agree and tell you for younger people that could be under 50, could be under 40, not really sure, but there most likely will be changes in either benefit cuts or making you wait longer for full retirement age. Another good question you could ask yourself, does an 8% return sound good? So I think if you like the idea of your check from full retirement age to age 70 going up 8% per year, you can start to make the argument that that might be a good strategy for you. And then what is the break-even age on that decision? It's typically going to land between 82 and 84 years old. And so what I mean by that, if you were to wait until age 70 and get your maximum benefit, it'll take about 12 years for that decision to break even, and then every check you get is more than you would have received with any other strategy. So delaying Social Security, it can provide a boost to your retirement income. Not the easiest decision to make, though, because of the 4 factors I mentioned.
Yeah.
What is your health and longevity? What are your cash flow needs? How do you feel about this decision? And do you have any concerns about the program being there for your entire lifetime? Mm-hmm. Here's the good news. We do have a Social Security timing analysis tool that we use within our broader planning program that we use for clients. So we can lay this out. We can do side-by-side scenarios, and then we can just talk through the 4 factors of it. And then how do you feel about this? And then people can tend to make a decision that they feel confident in. And to, as you asked, can you undo it? We have 12 months to undo it, but hopefully the decision you make is not one 9 months down the road you want to undo.
Right.
We want to make a decision, and now that's the path we're on.
Okay, makes sense. And it's nice that's part of that plan, that overall plan, that Social Security timing analysis, I mean, it's part of what you get when you come to Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Sit down. They will put the financial plan together based on your needs, based on where you are, where you want to be. What are the tools that you have? What's the ability that you have? What are your desires? Figure out wants, needs, your level of risk that you're willing to take on. And really what it comes down to is it's an individual plan for you. PremierIWM.com is the website for Premier Investments and Wealth Management, or call 800-383-6590. Elaine asks Jonas, my husband and I retired 2 years ago. We started taking Social Security, but it feels like the cost of living is rising faster than our benefit increases. Sounds like this could have been any time from 2021 all the way up to now. We have 401ks, but have been hesitant to touch them as we don't want to overspend too early. They want to know, how can we safely bridge the income gap, or should we adjust our spending to fit with our Social Security benefit?
I love this question, Elaine, and this is kind of like fast forwarding Barb's question. Barb was asking, when should we take it? Mm-hmm. Well, Elaine and her husband are taking it, and it seems like they're feeling the pinch on their income based on what their expenses are. And I think it all comes down to how the math pencils out, Doug. Mm-hmm. What's coming in and what's going out, and how that is kind of disrupting their lifestyle. One of the things that you can do, let's see how the math pencils out. And let's not be so fearful, because I think it's a human nature for people to be afraid of running out of money in retirement.
Yeah.
And that's just the lack of planning. But if you look at having a retirement income analysis of some kind, and you look at all your sources of income, you look at your retirement lifestyle right now, what's going out, mm-hmm. and we actually, and you can help me with this, gang, we actually help people with that question of where should we take the money out from? Mm-hmm. If there's a shortfall or a gap, we get calls all the time, Doug. Should I take it out of this, that, this investment, my bank, anything like that? All those questions, we come up with the shortfall. That's where a plan comes in. Mm-hmm. Because really, Elaine needs to know if there is a gap there, how to replace that. And one of the things that we talk about all the time is that bucket strategy.
Right.
If Elaine has a bucket strategy in place, potentially she could have enough in retirement, enough in bucket number one, the emergency fund. Mm-hmm. And potentially if Elaine and her husband are feeling the pinch in retirement, Social Security isn't keeping up with groceries. One of the things that we do a lot is we have people just take the interest and dividends out of their bucket number two. And that isn't a growth investment. That's just primarily designed to mm-hmm. take interest and dividends out of. So great question, Elaine. I'm just going to call this Elaine feeling the pinch in retirement, Doug.
Okay, and she is, but there's, like Jonas said, Casey, there's more than one way to solve this problem, because she said, what do we do? Maybe we need to adjust our spending, and this comes down to the wants and needs that you talk about a lot.
Yeah, I think, again, I go back to something I've said before, and I will reiterate once again. The financial plan is designed to bring clarity to your situation. It will tell you if you are overspending. It will tell you if you can spend more. I know in the plans that I run, similar to Roger, Elias, and Jonas, you guys as well, I run a max spending model for my clients. And I say to them, well, I know that you're spending $4,000 a month, but you could spend $10,000 and you'd still be okay. Mm. And I've got some people that then look across at me and say, what on earth am I going to spend $10,000 a month on? I say, it's not that I'm telling you to. It's you can. That is your upper threshold. And so really bringing in that level of clarity that just really answers that question, even beyond just the specific mechanics of how, but how much.
Right. Exactly. Brilliant questions by every single one of the people who submitted them at PremierIWM.com, or customers. Maybe you've got a question that you would like to have answered. Just go PremierIWM.com, click Contact Us, and you can ask the question. You can do it anonymously if you want to. You can put in your name if you'd like to. Either way, sometimes you just kind of need to know that your question is the one that is getting answered. Premier Investments in Wealth Management, there's a reason they've been named the Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams. They've got front office, they've got back office, tons of years of experience. And you know what? It really comes down to a relationship that they're able to work with and create with you. Because when they sit down with you, you're not just interviewing them, they're interviewing you as well. And isn't it nice to know that they're being selective? They're not just going to take everyone that flies into the door and start investing money. They want to make sure that their investment philosophy fits with yours so that there's no conflict. Okay? Premier Investments in Wealth Management is where you need to go on the website, premieriwm.com. You can click Get Started and get your one-page Premier Vision document back and a free no-obligation consultation along with it. And you can also call right now if you just want to skip over that, make your appointment 800-383-6590. For Dr. Casey Mushrush,
Just you, Doug.
Jonas Everett, and Elias Randel, my name is Doug Wagner. We'll talk to you again next week on the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments in Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide specific individualized tax or legal advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal advisor. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Forbes' Best in State Wealth Management Teams ranking was developed by Shook Research and is based on in-person, virtual, and telephone due diligence meetings and a ranking algorithm that includes a measure of each team's best practices, client retention, industry experience, review of compliance records, firm nominations, and quantitative criteria, including assets under management and revenue generated for their firm. Investment performance is not a criterion because client objectives and risk tolerances vary, and advisors rarely have audited performance reports. Shook's research and rankings provide opinions intended to help investors choose the right financial advisor and team, and are not indicative of future performance or representative of any one client's experience. Past performance is not an indication of future results. Neither Forbes nor Shook Research receive compensation in exchange for placement on the ranking. For more information, please see www.shookresearch.com. Shook is a registered trademark of Shook Research.